Jupiter represents expansion within consciousness. In the Hermetic system described in Poimandres, this is the sixth sphere the soul passes through during its descent into embodied existence. At this stage, awareness is no longer governed only by identity, desire, or impulse. It becomes governed by enlargement, the movement toward more knowledge, more experience, more status, more power, more security. In Hermetic teaching, this sphere is associated with greed and the foolish desire for wealth. This does not only refer to money or possessions. The deeper principle is psychological expansion through acquisition, the belief that fulfillment exists somewhere beyond the present condition. Mars created pressure toward action. Jupiter gives that pressure a direction. It tells awareness that growth itself will produce completion. This creates a continuous forward movement, a constant attempt to enlarge the self through accumulation. In ordinary life, this appears everywhere. A person gains recognition, then seeks greater recognition. A person gains knowledge, then feels incomplete without more knowledge. A person reaches one goal, then immediately forms another. For a brief moment, satisfaction appears. Then the structure resets. The mind projects fulfillment into the future again. This is the function of the Jovian sphere. It binds awareness to expansion, not because expansion is wrong, but because identity becomes dependent upon it. The problem is not growth. Growth is natural. Learning is natural. Creation is natural. The distortion occurs when expansion becomes psychological necessity. At that point, awareness can no longer remain present as it is. The current moment becomes insufficient. Something additional is always required. This is why the Hermetic teaching calls it foolish desire. Not because ambition is evil, but because the structure itself cannot complete what it promises. A simple example. A person believes financial success will finally create peace. They work toward it for years. Eventually, they achieve the goal. But after a short period, anxiety returns in another form. Now there is fear of losing what was gained, or pressure to gain even more. The external condition changed, but the internal structure remained active. The movement toward more continued. Another example. A person becomes deeply involved in spiritual study. At first, the search is sincere, but over time, the accumulation of teachings, systems, practices, and experiences becomes part of identity itself. Knowledge is collected endlessly, not for understanding, but for psychological expansion. Even spirituality can become part of the Jovian mechanism. The self attempts to enlarge itself through wisdom, the same way it enlarges itself through wealth or status. The key distortion of the Jovian sphere is projection. The assumption that fulfillment exists somewhere ahead rather than here. This keeps awareness suspended in future-oriented movement. Peace becomes conditional. Wholeness becomes conditional. Value becomes conditional. If you observe carefully, the structure always says the same thing. Once I obtain this, then I will be complete. But once the object is obtained, the structure simply replaces it with another. The movement never ends because the system depends on continuation. Hermetic teaching points directly at this pattern. Not to reject achievement, not to reject abundance, but to recognize when expansion becomes dependency. Because dependency creates bondage. Awareness becomes tied to accumulation. Experience becomes measured according to gain and loss. The present moment becomes merely a path towards something else. In the ascent described in Poimandres, the soul returns this garment. It releases greed. It releases compulsive expansion. It releases the belief that completeness must be acquired. This does not create passivity. A person may still learn, build, create, and participate fully in life. But action no longer comes from inner deficiency. Nothing needs to be added for awareness itself to be whole. This changes the structure of experience completely. Growth may continue, but identity is no longer constructed through increase. This is the core teaching of the Jovian sphere. Expansion is experienced, but it is not what you are. When this is understood clearly, the endless movement toward more begins to weaken. The future loses its psychological authority. Accumulation loses its emotional control. And awareness can finally remain present without requiring enlargement to justify its existence. That stillness is the beginning of freedom. You have seen how the Jovian structure forms, how awareness becomes tied to enlargement, how fulfillment is projected into the future through accumulation. The movement toward more begins to feel natural. More achievement, more security, more knowledge, more experience. But the lesson revealed something important. The structure does not end when something is gained. It immediately creates another condition for completion. This is why the movement continues, not because fulfillment failed to arrive, but because the system depends on continuation. Now the instruction changes. You will no longer analyze expansion. You will observe the feeling beneath it directly. Let attention settle, not on what is missing, not on what could be gained, but on what is already present. Notice any subtle movement toward the future, any pressure to improve this moment, any feeling that something additional is required. Do not follow these movements. Do not suppress them. Simply observe the impulse toward enlargement. There may be thoughts about progress, thoughts about becoming more complete, thoughts about reaching another state. Let them pass without participation. Remain here, before acquisition, before improvement, before becoming. This is the point usually overlooked. The moment before the mind turns presence into insufficiency. Stay here long enough to feel it clearly. Nothing is being added. Nothing is being removed. And yet awareness remains present. The Jovian structure begins to weaken, not because growth is rejected, but because completeness is no longer postponed. You are not what you accumulate. You are not what you expand into. You are what remains when the movement toward more becomes still. Now remain here, without reaching ahead, without constructing a future condition for wholeness. The sphere of Jupiter begins to loosen. The pressure for expansion fades. The need for enlargement softens. Awareness remains complete before anything is added to it. You are now ready to enter direct release, where growth may continue, but no longer defines your existence. Allow the body to settle naturally. No effort to improve the moment. No effort to reach another state. Nothing needs to be added right now. Bring attention to the movement of the mind, not the thoughts themselves, but the tendency to move forward, toward improvement, toward completion, toward more. Notice how quickly awareness projects into the future. Another condition, another achievement, another level to reach. Do not follow these movements. Do not resist them. Simply observe the pressure to expand. This is the Jovian current, the force that tells awareness it must become greater before it can rest. It promises completion through accumulation, more knowledge, more control, more experience, more becoming. Now, allow a future-oriented thought to appear naturally. Do not create it. Wait for it. When it appears, observe what it contains. A movement away from the present moment. An assumption that something else is needed. Stay there. Observe the structure clearly. The mind says, once this happens, then I will be complete. Do not continue the thought. Do not complete the movement. Remain here instead, before the projection fully forms. Feel what happens when the movement toward more is not followed. At first, there may be discomfort, a sense that something is unfinished, a pressure to continue seeking. Do nothing. Let the pressure exist without obeying it. Now, something begins to change. Without pursuit, the movement loses momentum. Without projection, the future loses authority. Awareness remains present. Nothing new has been added, and yet nothing is missing. See this clearly. Completion was never located in the future. The structure only projected it there. The Jovian garment begins to loosen, not because growth is rejected, but because wholeness is no longer postponed. You do not need another condition to be complete. You do not need another achievement to exist fully. Now, the return begins. All compulsive expansion, all dependency on accumulation, all movement towards psychological enlargement is released. Returned to the sphere of Jupiter, where expansion belongs. You remain, without reaching, without deficiency, without the pressure to become more. Growth may still occur, life may still unfold, but awareness no longer depends on increase for completion. Nothing is being added, nothing is being gained, nothing is being pursued. And still, awareness remains whole. The garment of expansion is returned. The movement toward more dissolves. The future loses its hold. There is nowhere to arrive, nothing to accumulate, nothing required before peace can exist. Only awareness, present before becoming. Rest here, where nothing more is needed.